Hi, everyone, and welcome to Food for Thought, Exploring Nutrition Information Resources. I'm going to introduce myself again. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a bit of a cold, so I'm going to stop every once in a while and just kind of clear my throat. My name is Liz Cascaden. I'm your instructor, and I work for the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, which is a program of the National Library of Medicine. Our office is located at the University of Iowa, go Hawks, in Iowa City, Iowa. I'll be presenting 2 sessions for this class. So this is the first of 2 lectures as a part of this hybrid class in Moodle. Now in week 2, which is this week, this first part is released. And in week 4, the second part is going to be released to you to view. I want to thank everyone who completed our pre-class survey. That went out just to kind of learn a little bit more about who our classmates are and what reasons you took this course. And the reason I asked that information is partly just my own curiosity, but partly because I tailored this class for the students and try to meet your needs in the content I provide here. So who are your classmates? We had about 65 participants in our class. Because we are a program of the National Library of Medicine, we always see a lot of health sciences librarians in our courses, which is wonderful. These colleagues make up about half of our class. But our organization has been trying to engage some new audiences as well, work closely with our public library colleagues, for example, and our health professionals. And I see that we have some of you on the line as well. So thank you all for your interest in this class. I also asked you all, what do you hope to learn from this class? And I got a range of results from everyone. Some of you told me that you're working on your consumer health information specialization. That's a program of the Medical Library Association, and it's one in which our office supports. So if you're a librarian looking for that consumer health information specialization, this class is one of those eligible towards that program. If you're interested in learning more about the program, head out to the Medical Library Association website to learn more. We also have folks who are just looking for useful information to use in their public library settings, and we have plenty of that available. We've got public health educators supporting their patients. We've got health sciences librarians supporting their liaison areas, such as dietetics and nutrition. We've got folks who are just interested in nutrition, would like to serve their community, and would like to serve hospital patients. So thank you all for sharing this information. I'm going to walk you through a number of resources, and I try to pull out and highlight those that meet the needs of this group particularly. So let's take a look at our class objectives. We have 3 class objectives for this course. One of those is the ability to identify resources for nutrition vocabulary, to identify definitions of relevant terms, and we're going to knock that one out today right away. A second objective is to identify important sites for locating freely available, reliable nutrition information, with an emphasis on the information needs shared by you. And finally, we're going to learn how to search and locate information on nutrition topics in several databases. Those databases in particular are going to be PubMed, PubAg, and the Evidence Library. We're going to be focusing on those in our second presentation. So let's talk about defining nutrition terms. So the reason behind sharing information on nutrition terms is really kind of twofold. One is to use this information to define terms, should you need to. And the second is for those of you who do searching in databases, you can use these resources to mine for search terms. And we'll talk about searching in databases a little bit later on. But I want to demonstrate these to you guys. So the first one is available in Medline Plus. They have a food and nutrition page that has a number of definitions that you're going to find useful. I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. All right, here we are on the Medline Plus page under nutrition. You can get here through health topics, nutrition. If you scroll down, first of all, there's a lot of great information in here that you might find useful. But when it comes to definitions, you'll want to scroll down to the reference desk piece of the page, and you'll see right here there's a link to definitions of health terms nutrition. If you click on that, you're going to access a glossary of terms. And what's nice about this is there's also definitions for both minerals and vitamin terms as well. So this is something you may find useful. And I'm going to be doing a short demo on some other pieces of Medline Plus on nutrition in just a few minutes here. The second glossary I wanted to present to you is the UNICEF Nutrition Glossary, and this one is a little bit more comprehensive. So this is a 15-page glossary developed by UNICEF's Office for Research. It was last updated in March of 2012, but the content doesn't change a lot, so it's still very relevant. So this is a useful guide if you want something to print off and keep at your desk, if you do searches for nutrition resources frequently. So let me show you what this one looks like. Here it is, the UNICEF glossary. When I see here, it's actually last updated in April 2012. And this is about, like I said, 15 pages and something easy to use at your desk. The FDA also has a nutrition glossary. Like the UNICEF glossary, it's easy to use and downloadable. This is a nice go-to resource. I think their resources are always well presented. And here it is, the FDA Nutrition Glossary. If it's something that you want to print, there's an option to do so, but it's way down at the bottom of the page. And you can click here and print off that PDF. I also wanted to share the Vegetarian Glossary of Terms that's available through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. This is useful when you're looking for terms for our vegetarian friends. And here is what this resource looks like. All of these are linked onto the nutrition resource guide that accompanies this course. And I have a link to that available in Moodle. There's a section on nutrition terms, and you can access all of these there. But I did want to put in a plug for one resource that isn't freely available, but is what I would consider a core resource when it comes to nutrition terminology. And this is the International Dietetics and Nutrition Terminology resource. Excuse me. This is the official reference manual of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So if you're looking for terms that are more in-depth, this is a manual that you can obtain, most likely through your local library. The manual is also available now electronically with a subscription. That's something I don't have access to at my own institution. We don't subscribe to it. But if you needed to reach out and locate this, I'm sure you could do so through your library. This reference manual contains terminology excuse me, on assessment and monitoring, evaluation, diagnosis, and intervention. So if you're looking for something a little bit more in-depth, I would go here. All right, so the way I've organized this class is to go over some general resources through three major institutions. Those three key players, as we call them, are the USDA, the FDA, and the CDC. I'm going to be introducing you to resources within these and highlighting what makes them unique as far as nutrition. Now, in our next lecture coming up in week 4, we're going to dig into some of those databases and talk about more advanced searching techniques. But for now, we're going to highlight some of the resources available in these key players that you may not be familiar with. But before we dig in, I promised to show you a little bit more in Medline Plus and where you can find some food and nutrition topics in here. So Medline Plus actually has a food and nutrition topics page. That section contains more than 100 different pages of information. There are some resources in the drugs and supplement tab, for example, that contain well-known nutrition supplements such as dandelion, fish oil, garlic. While the drugs and supplement tab here isn't as comprehensive as some commercial databases, for example, if you happen to have access to Natural Standard. However, Medline Plus is freely available and covers the most popular, easy to read records for the public. So most of the records in the drugs and supplements tab come from NIH's National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health resource. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you, as well as the health topic page. So there's a health topic page for dietary supplements available in Medline Plus as well. What I'd like to point out is the health topic page for food and nutrition. This brings you to a list of records on topics such as eating disorders, body weight, antioxidants, food allergies, and so on. There's also several great resources here for seniors. So there's a nutrition for seniors heading. And also the videos and tools tab in Medline Plus has a collection of quizzes and calculators and games related to nutrition. This is someplace you can go to calculate your BMI, And there's kind of a fun food labeling quiz in here as well. If you're someone that works with the public or with school-aged kids, that might be useful. So let me show you what this looks like. Here we are on the Medline Plus homepage, which is at medlineplus.gov. For those of you unfamiliar with Medline Plus, this is kind of NLM's flagship product for public health information. So this is all authoritative, reliable, high-quality information with no advertisements available to the public. Here on the main page, you'll see there's a health topics link. If you click on this, you're going to get to a page with health topics. Surprise, surprise. And here's a heading for health and wellness. And it's under here you're going to find this food and nutrition heading. Go ahead and click on this, and you're going to get to a list of useful topics. So for example, here is a page on food allergy. If you click on this, it's going to bring you to the Medline Plus food allergy page, which includes a summary, latest news. This is fun. They update this on a weekly basis. Diagnosis, tests, treatments, therapies, and so on. And you'll see a similar format for all of the Medline Plus pages. So let's take a look at caffeine, for example. It's early today when I'm recording this. This sounds very appealing. And take a look at that page as well. So that's an example of a couple of the health topics pages. Now let's take a look at the drugs and supplements tab. That's up here. And you'll see we've got our drugs category, but here's an herbs and supplements piece. And if you click on this, you can search for things. I think I mentioned dandelion, so let's go ahead and be consistent here. And there's our dandelion heading. And this is what one of these records looks like from NIH's National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. And finally, I had mentioned those resources such as videos and tools. So I'm going to show you here. We're back at our Medline Plus page, and you may have noticed this earlier. There's a videos and tools tab. If you click on this, you're going to see a number of headings, including, I mentioned games, that food labeling game. If you click on this, you can go down and see what's available. And here are our food label games. There are a couple of food label ones like Fight Back, and obviously this is bacteria. There's a food safety mobile game. So just a few fun things to look at if you're an educator. And lastly, I know we've got some people looking for multilingual information on nutrition, and Medline Plus does have Spanish. I know that's not multiple languages by any means, but we do have Spanish available in this resource, and you'll see there's a Spanish link here, and the entire resource then is in Spanish. So that's just something to look to if you're working with multilingual patients or patrons. And I should point out as well, Medline Plus has a magazine, which is freely available. Now the magazine comes in both English and in Spanish. You can read latest issues here, but if you work in a public library, like many of you do, you can get these sent to your library, and they look great. They look like glossy professional magazines, and they're all from NIH, Medline Plus, so it's all consumer health information. So it's something to think about if you want this information in your space. So there's a little bit about Medline Plus. Now let's dive into some of these resources, these key players. So one of these key players is the USDA. So USDA is home to a number of things that I want to highlight for you today. So one of these things is the dietary guidelines. The official dietary guidelines for Americans comes from this resource. Tied to that, the USDA has a resource called choosemyplate.gov, which is intended to take those guidelines and package them in a way to educate the public. So I'm going to show you some of the best of those resources. USDA also has their own portal called nutrition.gov. This is useful because, like all government organizations, often they're an umbrella for a number of resources and link between different partners. So nutrition.gov makes a really nice portal page, and I'll show you that. I'm going to show you a little information about the National Agricultural Library and their Food and Nutrition Information Center. And I'm going to share the food and composition databases that USDA makes available. This is what the USDA's food and nutrition page looks like. All of the content I'm going to cover under the USDA portion of this is located under topics, food and nutrition on their page. But I'm going to present these first with screenshots, And then I'm going to pop out of the presentation and show you what these look like live in the websites. Many of you may already be familiar with Choose My Plate. Again, this is a tool created by the USDA to assist the public with developing healthy eating habits. My Plate's intended to incorporate those dietary recommendations and explain food groups to the public. But we're going to go beyond this and look at some of the less commonly known resources here that you might find useful. One of these is SuperTracker. So SuperTracker is a food and exercise journal available online, similar to Weight Watchers if you've ever used that. The nice thing about this resource is that there are no advertisements, unlike the other freely available trackers. It also has built in a Foodopedia, which is what it sounds like, a food encyclopedia, where you can look up nutrition for over 8,000 foods and compare them side by side. You'll see I included an image of a chocolate bar in here to show you kind of what that looks like. Also in this resource, there are meal plans. So the resource puts together meal plans that fit within the 2,000 calorie recommended diet and incorporates all of these food groups. And you'll see I've got meal plan A there, but they have meal plans for different calorie plans as well that you can look at. The nice thing about the tracker as well is that it incorporates these food groups. So when you track things, you can see how many, if you met your daily dairy requirement, for example, or fruit requirement. Like other trackers available online, you can track your physical activity and you can set personal goals. But what I like about this resource as well is that you can set group challenges. So if you work in a community organization and wanted to have your own group challenge about eating healthier, eating more fruits and vegetables, staying within a calorie diet, you could set something up for your own group. USDA also has a great collection of infographics. In fact, some of them are seasonal. And while you'll see the yogurt infographic on the left of the page here, they actually have a couple of Thanksgiving ones they've created, and I'll show you those when we pop out into the resource live. The nice thing about these infographics is you can reproduce them freely for your own institution, although that takes access to a printing facility. But you can also share them on Facebook or on Twitter easily, or reproduce them digitally if you have digital slides that you want to incorporate something like this in. USDA also has a resource called What's Cooking? The USDA Mixing Bowl. This contains a ton of information about eating on a budget and eating healthy. It contains a huge recipe collection, including a tool to build your own cookbook. So you can search within the recipes, choose recipes that meet your dietary needs or your dietary restrictions, and put them in your own cookbook, which you can save as a file or actually print off. There is multilingual information in the recipes. So there are, of course, a lot of Spanish recipes. And they've also worked with some community groups to develop traditional Latino recipes and show you how to make those healthier. What I like about those resources, they also have a collection of how-to videos. So if you're someone that doesn't cook a lot, like myself, you can go out and watch these videos, and they have a chef that shows you how to prepare them. Oftentimes, they have a chef and they bring in a student, like a school-age kid, to show you how you can cook together to teach your kids as well. One of the things I enjoy about this is that they have recipes that include the cost per serving. So I remember when I was a new grad from college, I didn't have any money, and I had a copy of Betty Crocker's cookbook. I think my mom gave it to me when I graduated. And I was so broke that I actually put the cost per recipe and the cost per serving next to every recipe I made. And I still have that cookbook, and I see that, and I'm like, oh, those are hard times. But this does it for you, so you actually have that cost per serving there. They are going to be releasing a new menu builder soon. You can kind of see it on the bottom of the page here. And that allows you to build your own menu and print it off as well. Some of you shared that you're educators, you work with kids, so I wanted to point out that My Plate has, or I'm sorry, Choose My Plate, has resources for different target audiences, including kids. My Plate Kids Place has a number of games and activity sheets that you can actually reproduce and use yourself. They also have tips for parents, for picky eaters, for example, that you can give to families. There's also nutrition resources specifically for pregnant women, such as a pregnancy weight gain calculator. So I will demonstrate these as well when we pop out to use this resource. But let's not forget the dietary guidelines for Americans. This is published every 5 years, and the most current edition is the 8th edition, 2015 to 2020, which I have displayed here. You can find a number of related resources, including an executive summary, press releases. They've got questions and answers, and you can actually go into the USDA and access previous dietary guidelines, which you may need to for a project in the future. And I had pointed you all to nutrition.gov as well. So this provides easy access to vetted food and nutrition information across the federal government. So think of it as a gateway to reliable information on nutrition, healthy eating, physical activity, and food safety for the public. You can actually sign up on this website for newsfeed alerts if you're someone who needs to stay current with information across the department. And within this resource, I'm going to be presenting the USDA Food Composition Database, which is located here. This is a useful tool for looking up nutrition content in specific foods and actually downloading nutrition content into Excel. Here is what that food composition database looks like. The data here comes from one of two places, either the USDA National Nutrient Database for standard reference or the USDA Branded Food Products Database. So this is a useful way to look up foods by item, food group, manufacturer name. You see I've got an RB sandwich listed here. What I like about this, again, is the ability to pull reports from this. So you can look up a large subset of information, download it into Excel, and I'll demonstrate that. Here we are on the USDA.gov website. And if you go here under Topics, you're going to find that Food and Nutrition heading. When I click here, this should look familiar from my slides. And a number of the resources that I'm pointing you to are actually located at the bottom of the page here, including nutrition.gov. I shared information from choosemyplate.gov, and this is linked all over USDA, but it's an easy URL to remember, and it is linked on our resource guide as well. So first of all, I wanted to show you those infographics I talked about. If you go up here to popular topics, you'll see a page right here of infographics. And here they are. And I wanted to show you those Thanksgiving related ones. Here we are, Turkey 5 Ways, a My Plate holiday makeover. But no way am I substituting my pie for fruit. But here are some suggestions, and these are easy to reuse. Again, I want to put a shout out to some multilingual resources for our students here. Under audience, you'll see there's a specific multiple language audience for Spanish and other languages. So let's take a look at this. And what this is going to give you is primarily Choose My Plate tip sheets. So if you go to other languages here, you'll see that there are 20 other languages available. And I'll show you what these look like. So here we have our Arabic. They've created a graphic, the Choose My Plate graphic in that language, and you can look at standard or high resolution. That's not what I was expecting. I was looking for this here, the Choose My Plate tip sheet. Here we go. That's available in multilingual resources. So that's something to look to if you're looking for multiple languages. Also under audiences, you saw some of those resources for special populations like kids. So I had mentioned the Choose My Plate Kids Place, and you'll see that's available right here under Kids. And here it is. Now, some of these are fun, and some of them I think are a little cheesy, but it depends on your population. So you'll see we've got our activity sheets here. There are mazes, codes, and so on, and you can go ahead and reproduce these or use them in the classroom. So here's your whole grain activity, for example. There are also resources here for parents and educators. I'll show what these look like. My Plate at Home. And this is kind of fun. They've developed some new posters for kids. I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is a race car poster made out of vegetables. So that's something that you might find a use for if you work with that audience. And if you're looking for recommended daily calorie limits for different aged children, you'll see that that's available on the bottom of this page as well. Now, you may have seen that we've got a preschooler page. This contains the growth charts for preschool kids, as well as some eating and nutrition information. And then pregnant women or moms-to-be are listed here as well. So you can get health and nutrition information for that audience, as well as seniors. There we go, older adults listed here as well. If you do work with a senior population, I want to put in a plug for the Go for Life from the National Institute on Aging. The National Institute on Aging has a whole bunch of great resources for seniors, including nutrition resources. We used to have a separate class just to talk about this, and I'm not sure if that's on the schedule yet, but watch for that on our training schedule. So now, how about that super tracker? From the Choose My Plate page, you can go to Online Tools, and the super tracker is located right here. And you can log in and create your own account, or create your own group here. I'm just going to go ahead and log in so I can show you what it looks like in my profile. All right, here we are, logged in as myself. Here's the Foodopedia that contains 8,000 foods and nutrition information. I'm going to go ahead and put in chocolate because that's what I eat mostly. All right, so let's say I'm going to start my day off with some chocolate cake. And here's where you can compare foods. So if you wanted to compare two things, here I've got my chocolate milk and my chocolate cake side by side. And the intent is to really compare the two and see, oh, which one would be better for me. And then you can add them to the food tracker here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my food tracker. And say that's what I had for breakfast. Healthy start to the day. And here I've switched to my food tracker page so you can see here it is. There is my breakfast with my chocolate cake in it, showing you where I'm at as far as my daily limit, and so on. And just like a lot of other food trackers out there, you can create your own recipes in here as well. And here on the main page, you'll see where you can create group challenges right here. So if you want to become a group leader and organize a challenge in your organization or in your community, that's something you can do here freely. So back to the choosemyplate.gov website, I want to show you where those recipes are at and where that USDA mixing bowl resource is. If again you go under popular topics, you're going to see there's a recipes and menus link here. Click on that. This is going to bring us to the What's Cooking USDA mixing bowl resource. So let me show you what this looks like. Here's where you can access their directory of recipes. And if you want to create your own cookbook, here's that tool I told you about. You can go in and select recipes for your own customized cookbook. And here are these how-to videos. So the USDA has its own YouTube channel where these are all housed. I'm going to just show you what that looks like. Here we go. So they have a number of cooking demonstrations here that you can share with others. Also, healthy eating on a budget. Again, this personal story about being a student on a budget. You can access this. They have a number of cookbooks that they've created. Some of them are for kids, for example, and some of them, here's that Latin American cooking recipe or cookbook I told you about. There are also recipes in Spanish, so you can go ahead and access those here. And I did mention those USDA food fact sheets. This is one of the things I like about this resource. There are a lot of places you can go to, of course, to get nutrition information from specific foods. What I like about the fact sheets is they actually give you safe handling or safe storage instructions. So let's look at this and go to one of my favorite foods, butter. Here it is. And take a look at that. I'll show you what this looks like. So here's that storage information I told you about. So if you don't know what to do with your food, how to take care of it, there's that. And of course, there's nutrition facts as well. and they give you some information for some healthier options than butter. So this may be something that you would find useful if you worked with the public. Now I'm going to take you back to that USDA Food and Nutrition website and show you where those dietary guidelines are located. So again, these are linked to our resource guide, but if you're out here, just remember to go down to the bottom of the page and you'll see right here a link to the dietary guidelines. Now this is a little indirect, so you're going to get to the dietary guidance page, and this is where you can get some of that historical food pyramid information. I know I've run into people looking for this in the past, historical dietary information to compare what the old standards were versus the new. So this is where you're going to find that. Also dietary referent intakes. I've had health professionals looking for this in the past as well. But what I want to point you to is the dietary guidelines for Americans, published every 5 years. So we're going to click on this. That seems to be taking a little bit. Here we go. So still a little indirect. The link on our guide will take you directly here. This is what we're looking for. And this is the page we're looking for. So this is what you saw on my slides. You can download the full document here. I find the executive summary to be the most useful because it has those key recommendations. You can jump right down to it. So this is kind of a core resource if you're working with the public on nutrition. Back to our USDA Food and Nutrition page, let's take a look at nutrition.gov, that portal to federal information on nutrition. It's located right here, nutrition.gov, easy URL to remember. Here's where you're going to see vetted food and nutrition information from across the federal government. And you're going to see some familiar things here, like the My Plate, dietary guidelines. They have some seasonal things for Thanksgiving, food facts, but I did want to highlight this food and composition database. So let me show you what this looks like and how it works. As I mentioned before, information in this database comes from these two resources, which they have listed here, and you can start your search. Now, I eat a lot of chocolate, so instead of raw broccoli, we're going to look for chocolate. There we go. Oh, how about an Elmer's chocolate raspberry truffle? Doesn't that sound good? Okay, so let's take a look at this. And here you're going to have the official nutrient information from the USDA, and you can change the quantity here, or you can change this in grams as well. And you're going to see that nutrition information. Now, you can also download this and print it, but you can pull reports here as well, and I think this is what makes this particularly useful. So if you wanted to pull a nutrients list report, you can click here and you can select up to 3 nutrients. So I'm going to say we're looking for some high protein foods, and let's say we're looking for something, I don't know, let's say we'll look at sugars too. Say I'm looking for some high protein, low sugar foods. Now, there is a way to search all foods or an abridged list. Now, this abridged list is what they say is the most common household foods. And if you hit this question mark, you'll get that kind of scope note. So it's a list of the 1,000 most commonly eaten foods in the United States. It's just a way to make your report smaller. I'm going to skip the food group. I'm going to sort things by food name, household measurements. So I'm going to go ahead and select go, and it's going to create this report for me. And this can take a bit. All right, here it is at last. So you see we're starting right with the alcohols because we have this listed alphabetically. But here's what I find useful. You can go ahead and download this then. You can sort it by nutrients. So let's say I want to look at proteins. Download this and open it in Excel. Just like this. And you're going to see the protein measurement here. So if you wanted to do something fancy in Excel and sort this by the foods with the highest protein and the lowest sugars, you could. And this would be a great resource if you're working with someone who had dietary restrictions or needed to increase something like protein in their diet. So that's how I find the USDA food composition database useful, and gives it a bit of an advantage of all of those other food encyclopedias available online. So our last resource from the USDA that I wanted to highlight is their agricultural library. The National Agricultural Library is one of the 4 national libraries of the United States and houses one of the world's largest collections devoted to agriculture and its related sciences. This is relevant to this class because it does cover a lot of nutrient information. In fact, on the screenshot here, you can see under popular topics, nutrient data for foods. If you work at a library, I know many of you do, know that you can borrow materials from the agricultural library. If you don't work in a library and would like to access materials, just go to your local library and they can request these via interlibrary loan. So the USDA Agricultural Library has it covered, and I'm going to open this up and show you some of the useful tools here. You're going to see some common themes here. The nutrient data for foods, for example, takes you back to the USDA Food Composition Database. You also see a link here to nutrition.gov. So these resources are interconnected. If you look here under publications, you'll see that there's a food and nutrition heading. This is going to take you to the Food and Nutrition Information Center, which I find quite useful. For those of you that work in libraries, think of this as a library guide developed by the National Agricultural Library on food and nutrition. So it makes a nice, useful portal that you can bookmark. And you'll see under popular topics, again, here are the dietary guidelines, dietary reference intakes. You can sign up for their Nutrition Talk email list. I did this just to test it out because I promote it, and it's actually quite useful. So if you are a nutritionist or you work with dietitians, this is pretty useful. Research briefs, evaluating health information. So this isn't nutrient specific, but it is useful. And then we do have some resources here on understanding nutrition facts. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to the FDA. I should take you out to the dietary, the DRI. There's actually an interactive tool for this. So the DRI is actually daily nutrient recommendations for dietary planning, created by the Institute of Medicine. So I'll show you how this works. Say that I'm a female, say I'm 40 years old, 5 feet, 7 inches, 180 pounds. Let's say I don't do anything, I'm very sedentary. So here I can go ahead and calculate BMI, daily calorie needs. We talked about protein, let's stick with that theme. And I can submit this form then. And I'm going to get that daily nutrient recommendations here generated by this tool. This is not a resource that I've used often, but it's something I've pointed health professionals to in the past. Also, I'm going to go back a page and show you they do have an app. Of course, there's an app for that. There's a mobile app for the interactive DRI that you can download onto your mobile device. And back to that Food and Nutrition Information Center, one more thing I wanted to show you is under these topics here, there's actually a news feed. This is useful and it's updated regularly so you can stay current on food topics. So again, if you do work with nutritionists, want to stay on target, this is a great resource to bookmark. Finally, I wanted to let you know that the National Agricultural Library is the home of PubAg, a database of agricultural information that does contain nutrient information as well. That's located in our collections, but I'm going to save that because we're going to talk a little bit more about that at our second presentation. So our next key resource that I'm going to present today is the Food and Drug Administration, or as we fondly know it, the FDA. So the FDA is charged with regulating food production and keeping food safe. As a result, they have a number of resources that they make available, including information on food labeling, on food safety. This is where you go to find out about a recall or an outbreak. The Food Safety and Inspection Service, or FSIS, of the USDA issues recalls on meat, poultry, and egg products. The FDA also issues recalls on foods such as like pet food and animal feed. So if you have a pet, that's something to be aware of as well. So again, I'm going to highlight some resources available here in the food tabs, as well as some additional resources. So like before, I'm going to show you what these look like, and then we're going to go out into the website and play around with them a little bit. So this is what the food tab at the FDA looks like. And you'll see that they have this section to actually navigate your food section. This is where you can link out to recalls, outbreaks, foodborne illnesses and contaminants. You can learn about dietary supplements. So you know that FDA has a limited role in regulating supplements, and we'll take a look at those. FDA has a food defense section, reducing malicious or terrorist actions in the food supply. But you're also going to find things under popular topics that are of interest to the public. So we'll take a look at all of these, as well as some of the information available on food labeling. So you may be aware that FDA changed their food label just a few years ago. And with that, they have a larger font. You'll see the old label on the left here and the new one on the right. The changes were intended to make these easier to use and easier to read. Now, when they made this change, they also released a lot of resources for the public on reading food labels and understanding them. So I'm going to show you where some of that information is available. And again, for those of you who are working with school-age children, there's actually some curriculum available through the FDA also. This is an example of one. This is Science in Our Food Supply, intended to teach about food safety. So there is a tab including resources for students and teachers. And one of the great resources available there is called Food Safety A to Z Guide, and I'll show you where that's located at. My favorite piece of the FDA is the Education Resource Library. So this resource library is from the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, which has an acronym. It's CFSAN, but it contains links to a number of nutrition-related topics, and it's intended for educators, teachers, dietitians, and health professionals, as well as the general public. So there's kind of a wealth of resources available in this tool. Here's kind of a preview of some of the library topics available in here, including microwave safety, pregnancy and children, again, materials for those specific audiences. Holidays, so Thanksgiving is coming up, and we'll use that as an example. Now, I know that many of you work with medical students or professional students, so I wanted to highlight the FDA case studies. So I will show you where this is located at under learning activities, but it's a collection of case studies that promote active learning through exercises. There's information there to create your own instructor-led discussions and quizzes. So it's designed as a collection of fictional case studies based on real-world scenarios. And the curriculum follows a format similar to the Harvard Business Review case studies, if you're familiar with those. And they build upon previous case studies. So that's a useful tool if you're working with professional students. I also wanted to highlight something a little unusual here. FDA does regulate cosmetics, and they have a cosmetics quiz in here, which is kind of fun to play with. I also wanted to highlight that you can order publications from FDA at no cost. So if you are interested in having some food safety and nutrition publications, you can order those. And you'll see on the screenshot I have here, this is the second bullet. You can order those in quantities of up to 500 for your own organization. You don't have to worry about printing it yourself. They also have free publications for women, as you see here. So let's go out to FDA and dig into these. Here we are in fda.gov, and this is the food tab I was telling you about that I had in that screenshot. And you'll see down here, under Navigate the Food section, here are some of our headings. And did you know you can actually report a food outbreak right here within the FDA? If you click on this heading here, you're going to have a number of tools, including reporting a problem. So you went out for dinner with your family, you all got sick. Even consumers like yourself can report a problem, but it's also intended for healthcare providers, so you can go and report food issues. You're also going to have information here on recalls of foods and dietary supplements. There are a few places you can get this information, but I want to show you what it looks like in here. So if you scroll down this page, you're going to see recently posted food recalls by date. You see there were a couple, in dark chocolate products, oh my goodness. You're going to see these listed by date here. I went back a page here to show you where you can find outbreaks as well. So we had recalls. This is outbreaks of foodborne illness. If you click on this heading, you're going to see, I know you guys are going to bookmark this and start coming back to it. You're going to see the outbreak information from the CORE network, and CORE stands for Coordinated Outbreak Response and Evaluation. And from here, look at, there's a salmonella outbreak linked to papayas. Oh, thank goodness it's not chocolate. You can click on here to get fast facts and then dig into more information. And finally, on this page, one thing I like to promote are these widgets. So for those of you who are health sciences librarians or public librarians, and you curate your own library guides, there's a useful food safety widget that you can embed into your guide, available on the bottom of this page. I'll show you what it looks like here. Here it is. This is something that I had embedded in a library guide recently, and it looks really great. But basically, it gives you those food safety recalls on an ongoing basis. There's also a mobile app. However, I find the utility of that a little questionable. If you can think of a reason why someone would want that on their phone, let me know so I can share it as an example in the future. And back to that FDA food section, I want to show you where to access some of the food labeling and packaging information. It's located right here, Ingredients, Packaging, and Labeling. Now, if you go into this page, you're going to find a heading titled Labeling and Nutrition. And this is where you're going to get some of the basic information about the changes to the nutrition facts label here. But if you're looking for the fun stuff, you'll want to head over to the Nutrition Facts label programs and materials. And here you're going to find a collection of games as well as tools in other languages. And again, we're kind of limited to Spanish here. And we have some food fact, nutrition fact sheets. So if you work with the public and you are presenting information on nutrition facts and nutrition labeling, these are printable fact sheets intended to distribute. I'm going to show you this first one, New and Improved Nutrition Facts Label, and you'll see it's available in Spanish as well. And if you want to see what it looks like printable, here you go. This makes a nice, easy handout. There are some resources here that seem a little wacky, not unlike Label Man in the FDA video I shared. One of those is Yville, so it's an online game that you can play. It's intended for kids, or I'm sorry, young citizens, to learn more about reading nutrition labels. However, I find the most useful resource here, the Nutrition Facts Label Online. So this is an interactive resource to teach you about reading the food label. For example, if you click on total fat here, it's going to share information about where that's found and what it is, what it does. Like other resources, there's a fact sheet that you can print off in a PDF format as well. Here's something that should look familiar to you. This is where the nutrition glossary I shared earlier is found. There's a number of resources here on food labeling and understanding food labels. But I like this section here on downloadables. This is where you can go if you just want to print off some of those fact sheets for the public, or information on things like dietary fiber, cholesterol, protein, and so on. Back to that food page, I want to show you a couple things under popular topics you might find use for. There isn't a lot of content here, but what there is pretty useful. If you scroll down to the Browse by Popular Topics, you'll see that there is information from the FDA on topics like seafood. So again, for consumers, what pregnant women should know, safe food handling information, information for the industry, and information for researchers as well. So there, again, are not a lot of topics listed here, but they are particularly useful. Now, if this seems like a lot of information packed into one resource, let me show you resources for you. So this is intended to present a lot of the FDA information by audience for consumers, health educators, and so on. But what I wanted to link to here was the Education Resource Library. So I think this is an invaluable tool, and it's my favorite part of the FDA. What you can do here is select a topic from the list below, and you can view printable topics or order your own publications. So let's say I was looking at allergies, for example. Here's the food allergies handout available in English and Spanish, which is going to look like this, useful handout. If you don't have access to a printing facility, you can actually use their publication order form here. Wow, okay. Guess I should have tested this out in advance. So I must have the wrong Adobe product installed. But that should take you to an order form in which you can order materials for your institution. Back to the resources for you page, I wanted to show you where to access some of those case studies, for example. So these are located under healthcare professionals, and there's a section here for learning activities. And this is what that page looks like. You can access the case studies here. They've got a number to choose from. And each includes a useful instructor's guide as well. Back on the resources for you page, I'd like to show you where to access some of the curriculum for our students and teachers. If you scroll down, you'll see a students and teachers heading here. Go ahead and click on that. This is where you're going to find that A to Z reference guide on food safety, as well as the curriculum that I shared, which was the science in our food supply. So if you click on this, you're going to have that pre-built curriculum you can use in the classroom. This is designed for both a middle school and a high school level. If you share this or end up using this in the classroom, let me know what your experience is, because I've never used it firsthand. All right, so that's a lot of resources available in FDA, and a number of these are all linked onto our resource guide. So if you'd like to access things from there, that might be an easier approach. And I wanted to come back to our presentation to present information from our last key player, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC. The CDC has a nutrition page that has within the A to Z topics index. So some of these links will take you to other sites like FDA and USDA. For example, under Nutrition for Everyone, you're going to see again those dietary guidelines and Choose My Plate. But CDC also has a useful healthy living section and other sections, for example, nutrition, healthy food environments, and food safety, that you will find useful. So here's an example of that nutrition topics page, and I used my snazzy highlighter here to show you which headings are going to have nutrition information. That's healthy communities, food safety, healthy weight, nutrition, and overweight and obesity. And again, I'll present these and we'll pop out and take a look within CDC. CDC's food safety page contains a directory of foodborne illnesses. There's, again, that widget in here, foodsafety.gov, for food safety recalls. There's information on recent illness outbreaks, and there's information on food safety, such as challenges in food safety. And this contains information on things like antibiotic resistance and raw milk. There are food safety infographics, again, things like grilling safety and cleaning your fridge. Using the healthy living section on the home page also takes you to a different list of topics, including general nutrition page, but also folic acid, information on diabetes prevention, and other topics. The current features section includes nutrition-related topics such as holiday food safety during pregnancy, and I'll show you what those look like. Here's a look at the healthy weight topic. There are useful resources here for parents, and this is where we're going to see some of our statistics, including statistics on obesity and childhood obesity. There are BMI tools for adults and children, and again, a link back to some recipes. CDC's nutrition topic page is one of my favorite places to go for data and statistics on nutrition. This is where you can find things like the amount of water recommended daily, fact sheets about sugar, data about breastfeeding in the United States. There's even a report on fruit and vegetables consumed by state. So the title of that is State Indicator Report on Fruits and Vegetables. You can pull data from this as well. This page is also the home to a number of guidelines. You'll find guidelines here for food service industries, for institutions. You'll find guidelines here for school health facilities. You'll also find information here on state and local nutrition initiatives. Some of the publications you can access from CDC include a series called the CDC Vital Signs Reports. These include hospital actions that affect breastfeeding, a vital sign report on reducing sodium in children's diets. And there's also one on progress on childhood obesity. CDC's Healthy Schools topic page takes you to a list of publications and reports, such as a sugar-sweetened beverage intake report. And this measures the amount of sugar-sweetened beverage intaken by high school students. There's also a page in here on food allergies, and that contains some statistics and reports as well. So for example, there's a guideline called Voluntary Guideline for Managing Food Allergies in Schools and Early Care and Education Programs. But you might find more useful is the Food Allergy Guidelines FAQs, and I'll show you where that's located at. There's a great toolkit in here for managing allergies in schools if you work with that population. So now let's go out and take a look at some of these in CDC. Here we are on the home page. I like to go to Healthy Living and select the More button. I saw on that last page they had something on Halloween health. No, but I had a lot of candy. So here's our Healthy Living section, and I had highlighted some of these topics on this page. Let's begin with the food safety page here. There we go. I had mentioned that section on challenges in food safety. If you go to the bottom of this page here, you'll see our challenges in food safety page. Here are resources on antibiotic resistance, for example, and food safety in raw milk. There are also some resources on food contamination. Let's dig into one of these and take a look what it looks like. All right, here we are on raw milk. We've got some myths and we've got outbreak studies. What I like about the outbreak studies are that they actually have the reports and then the findings in an easy to read format. So let's take a look. The number of outbreaks linked to raw milk has increased. Okay, here are the findings from that report. So this is an easy way to learn more about some of these special topics. The food safety page is also your go-to place for foodborne outbreaks and multiple state outbreaks. So right here, there's this foodborne outbreaks box, and there is a multi-state outbreaks section here. So this is going to list those foodborne outbreaks and investigations. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these. Here we go. This presents the list of outbreaks, investigations by year, and by pathogen. So if you are doing any work with food outbreaks and contamination, this is a great resource. And how about preventing the outbreak in the first place? There is information on food handling available in CDC, and you can find that here under Prevention and Education. Go ahead and select on this. Here you're in the Prevention and Education page, and you'll see there's information for the public. I'm going to select this here. And here we go. This is our resource for food safety, clean, separate, cook, and chill. There's also a collection of infographics on this topic. So for example, here's one on protecting yourself when eating out to prevent food poisoning. But you know, this just reminded me of something that I didn't touch on under USDA. So last time I presented this class, I included this fun USDA meat and poultry hotline. And the intent of this hotline is to actually answer your food safety questions all year long. And I'm bringing this up because it's almost Thanksgiving. And if you have questions about food safety and your Thanksgiving turkey, you can call the hotline right here at 1-888-MP-HOTLINE. However, back to our CDC Healthy Living pages, I wanted to show you the healthy weight topic next. I'll go ahead and select this. If you work with a dietitian and you're looking for a food diary template, they do have this available at the bottom of the page here under food diary. There's also one for physical activity, and those are available from a number of resources. The page also includes tips for parents, and this is where you can access some information on healthy eating for kids and encouraging parents to encourage a healthy diet at home. And you'll see there's a tab here for parents and also just one for kids themselves. Of course, the topic page is going to have the most information relevant to this class is CDC's nutrition page. This is home to a number of reports and a wealth of data and statistics regarding nutrition. This is where you're going to find that state indicator report on fruits and vegetables that I told you about, as well as national action guides and data trends. You'll also find information on breastfeeding here, including a state-by-state report card and data and statistics. Here is that drinking water facts, added sugars, and what I like about this is that there's an interactive map resource. I'd like to demonstrate this for you. So let's go ahead and select this. Here we are. You can look at the United States or choose a state. I'll choose Iowa just because that's where I'm located at right now. And let's take a look at sugar drinks, for example. And let's say behavior. This data map is only going to show you what there is data for, and this is pulling directly from that national report on adolescents drinking soda. So if you'll see what's pulled up here, it's going to show us the most recent data, which is from 2015. It's showing us the percentage of students, grades 9 through 12, who drank soda at least once a day. If you look on the right hand of the page, you're going to see this Use the Data portal. If you're looking for more detailed information or want to work with the data directly from these reports, this is where you want to head out to. I'll share a little bit more information about these reports and where they come from in our second presentation, but I want you to know that if you want to work directly with that data or pull your own report, this is where you'd go to. What else are you going to find on that nutrition page? There's information as far as guidelines, state guidelines and national guidelines. So this is where you're going to find, again, another link to our dietary guidelines, health food service guidelines, school guidelines, and then strategies for state and local programs as well. From those state programs, here's an example of something going on in Kentucky, for example, Kentucky's farmers markets to improve access to fresh produce in poor neighborhoods. So there's a collection of these state policies located here that others can use as examples. And lastly on this page, I mentioned those CDC vital signs reports. Those are available under resources and publications. For example, here's a vital signs reports developed on reducing sodium in children's diets. It outlines the problem itself. How much is too much sodium? Where does it come from? And of course, we love our infographics, so we've got some infographics available. And then what we can do to address this issue. And at the bottom, you're going to find links to some of our resources, and you're going to see some Medline Plus resources there, as well as to some reports and research studies. And the last resource I wanted to show you here on the CDC page was the Healthy Schools page. Under the Healthy Schools page, there is a whole segment on nutrition. If you're just looking for core guidelines, at the bottom you're going to see under Key Resource, here is the School Health Guidelines and the School Health Index from CDC. But one thing I really want to highlight here is information on allergies. And I've changed this page, so I had to really think a minute here. That's located under chronic conditions. You can expand this, and you're going to see that there's a heading for food allergies. I demonstrate this because it has a list of resources here, which includes state guidelines for managing allergies in schools. There are also, let me scroll up a little bit, there's a useful toolkit for managing allergies in schools that's available here. Of course, CDC is the creator of the guidelines for managing food allergies in schools. That's available right here. You can view the full report, and also you can view the FAQs, which I think are a little bit easier to understand. All right, so that was a look through some of our key resources. Again, resources on nutrition from USDA, from the FDA, and CDC. And I hope you got an understanding as we went through here about how these government resources are interconnected with one another, how you can link back and forth to these results from one tool to the next, but also how they provide a very useful core resource for data, and statistics on nutrition, information on safe food handling, including our poultry hotline, information on caring and storing for food and food equipment, as well as useful databases of nutrients and guidelines. In our next presentation, we're going to go over using some databases such as PubMed and PubAg, and we're also going to look at the Nutrition Evidence Library, which is a resource of systematic reviews on food and nutrition topics. So stay tuned. I'm presenting this and releasing it for our third week of our course, and we will have an activity, our second week of our course, we will have an activity related to these resources coming up in our third week. So in the meantime, please take a look at our resource guide and practice linking out to some of these tools. Take a look and see what else you can discover in these resources and share it with your peers. Thank you all.